And then, because we're running actually ahead of time, I have just I'm going to show you a few examples of other games, and then we can actually look at some other demos from PBZ. So, just a handful of other games. We built a game called Peggle, a game called Visual Twist, a game called Chuzzle, Bookworm, and then our latest game, Zuma's Revenge, is a sequel to Zuma, which you may not have heard of. So since we're ahead of time, let me actually now show you some more prototypes of PBZ, and then I'll open it up for questions and take your comments. So let's look. One of the things actually it's important to do when you're building a game like Plants vs. Zombies is have fun. We're a big believer in having fun. And one of my favorite jokes from the making of PBZ was actually this version here. So I don't know if you're familiar with it, but in America, April 1st is called April Fool's Day. And it's traditional to kind of play jokes in the office on April Fool's Day. So the development team for PBZ released a special build of Plants vs. Zombies on April 1st saying, hey, check this out, we've added an all-new ice level. It's the coolest build ever of Plants vs. Zombies. You've got to check it out. So lots of people downloaded it in the office and played it, and this is what they found. Let me load up. And what's especially fun with this is we have an internal tool where players can post comments. And so what happened, this new build came out, and right away there were comments like, wow, this is the best version of PBZ ever. And other people were like, yeah, you gotta use the fireballs to defeat the snow monsters. And other people were like, how do you kill the polar bears? And other people were like, be careful for the new Santa Claus zombie. And everyone's getting all excited for this. And then when you play it, this is what we found. That's it. That's the April Fool's version. And of course, some people got the joke and thought it was really funny. Other people got really angry. We got a lot of people saying, it doesn't work, it's broken. My build is screwed up, you know, what's going wrong? So anyway, that's a kind of fun joke. But actually, because of this, enough people thought this was cool that we created the Yeti zombie, which got put in the final game almost as a joke. And so there's a Yeti, if you haven't seen it already, there's a Yeti zombie in the game. It's a secret of how to find it. You have to play, you can only find it the second time through, so play all the way through the game another time. And then it's one of the levels in pitch blackness, when the lightning flashes, you can see the Yeti zombie. So. Okay, and with that, I know we're done ahead of time. Let me actually now, we have time for some questions. So let me open it up, and I'd love to answer questions about anything. So yeah, in the back there. Do you have microphones? Just shout it out and I'll repeat it. Yeah, so the question is, when we talk about a free version, are we trying to make money using advertising, or are we trying to do it like an online game with items and things you pay for in the game, right? And the answer is the second case. Advertising in games is not, frankly, that successful. I mean, it seems like every year we keep hearing about how advertising in games is going to be this whole great new model. We've been experimenting with in-game advertising now for like 10 years, and it's never been that successful. I don't know why, maybe next year will be different, but I think getting users to pay their own money is always going to be more successful than getting advertisers to pay for the game, the ads in the games. So when I talk about free to play, I mean the second one. Right, so the comment was, well, if PopCap makes single-player games, how do we get people to pay for items, because items kind of require an online model? And I would say I agree, and I would say that therefore, if you're going to have a free-to-play model, it has to become an online or a social game. So for example, the first game PopCap ever made globally with an in-game item model is this Jewel Blitz game, and it only works because it's on Facebook. So it's on Facebook, it's social, you're competing against your friends for high score, and because of the model, users are willing to pay money for items. So even though it's a very simple online model, I mean, all you're doing is essentially competing for high score. It's the simplest possible online model, competing for high score. People still spend a lot of money to do that. And there's a lot of things we're doing in the design have gotten more and more sophisticated every year. So if you look at how much money we make now on a per user basis, if you compare how much money we make now compared to when we first launched it about 6 months ago, the paying model, we're making about 4 or 5 times more money now per user than when we started. And the core game has not changed. It's still just competing for high score. But if you're gathering enough data, if you're analyzing the data carefully, there are so many ways to improve it. So what we've learned is, if you have a feature, a lot of people talk about A/B testing. A/B testing in an online game is when you try different things, you see which one's better, and then you do that. Using A/B testing, you can make small improvements in the game. You can make plus 10%, plus 20% improvement. But if you add entirely new features, you can significantly boost the monetization. So I'll give you an example from the Jewel Blitz. We have a game feature called Rare Gems, where sometimes, randomly, if you get a high enough score, the game will say, congratulations, you've just discovered our rare gem. We call them moon gems. Do you want to buy this moon gem? So basically the player has essentially found this rare gem, and we let the player buy the gem using the free currency. But if you don't have enough free currency to buy the gem, you can buy currency for money. And that one feature has added a significant boost in profitability for the game. Right? And if you think about it, it's not affecting the multiplayer feature at all. It's not all multiplayer, it's just single player. But people love that feature. So that's an example of something we tried and it worked, and now it's a core part of the game. So there's lots of opportunities like that. If you try different things and be creative, they can generate more revenue. Okay, other questions? Over here. The microphone?
Oh, okay, I have a question. Thank you, gentlemen.
Sorry. Let's go over here first and then over there. Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Gwertzman, I have 2 questions. First, you say PopCap is going to grow up as it's going to the field of social games, not only about games on the phone. As I know, a Chinese web developer has already created an online version of PVZ. It can be run on any type of web browser, and it is made of HTML5. So my first question is, it's very easy to be duplicated. It's very easy to be copied, as we see that's copied to China. So that's how maybe have some influence on the revenue of PopCap in China.
Sure.
So what's your opinion about this kind of?
Yeah, so we watch Shanzai games very carefully. Right? So all the various PVZ Shanzai products in China, we know about them. In many cases, we have lawsuits. So of course, there's always legal repercussions, but I can't talk about that. So legal system is one way to fight, but as we all know, that's complicated, takes a long time, and is not usually the most successful way. Now the good news is, of all the various Shanzai PVZ games out there now, in general, users hate them. We read all the feedback from users on the various BBSs and forums, and most of the users say, this is not the real PVZ, this is a disgrace, I don't want this game. And so that gives us actually a lot of hope. It means that players actually want the real thing, they want the real brand, and if and when PopCap finally delivers a real online PVZ game that's really fun, then we should be in a good position. Now, it's taking us a very long time. You know, the original PVZ game took us 3 years or 4 years. Building an online version of PVZ is also going to take us a very long time. But we realized that when we finally launch an online version of PVZ, our biggest competitor are not the Shanzai companies. Because frankly, the quality is very low. And everyone knows it. So our biggest competitor is not the Shanzai online game versions. Our biggest competitor is ourselves. The biggest competitor to online PVZ will be the single-player PVZ. All the people who love playing single-player PVZ will play an online version. If it's not interesting and original and creative and different, they're going to say, oh, this is, you know, why should I play this? So that's why we're taking so long to get it right. But once we get it right, by spending so long to get it right, And by continuing to innovate and add features, we believe we'll always be ahead of people trying to copy it. So every time we have a new feature, someone tries to copy it, by the time they launch it, we'll be ahead of the next feature. If you look, for example, the Jewel Blitz, there are still no real competitors in the market today. The original brand, we believe, always does better than people trying to copy it. So we don't spend too much time worrying about people copying. We just focus on building a great game ourselves and keeping it fresh, keeping it interesting, and are confident that will be enough.
Well, in China, maybe things are a little bit different with the international market. In China there are several very big SNS community, like Renren or Qzone. We know the original one is Facebook, but iPhone version of PVZ of Visual Blitz, we all have the function to connect with your Facebook friends, but not your friends in Renren.com or Qzone. But in China, people are always like to be contacted with their familiar friend on those Shanghai version of Facebook.
Sure. So we announced back in August a relationship with Renren, and in fact, we actually have a version of the Jewel Blitz that connects to Renren on the iPhone. We haven't launched it yet because we don't yet have. We've not yet launched a version of the Jewel Blitz on Renren that we're happy with ourselves for China. But we take social networks in China very seriously. We're in talks with all the sites you mentioned, Kaixin 001, Renren, Qzone. We're talking to all of those. And we take social networks in China very seriously. Facebook is obviously not in China. There's really only 2 markets in the world where Facebook doesn't work, China and Japan. And so in these markets we have to be local, and we are local. So you will see games from PopCap on local social networks, on both mobile and PC in the future.
Just now, the version of Visual Blitz that's sold in Chinese market can be only connected to one SNS network, that is Renren. Is it right?
So far today, we've only launched Renren as an experiment. Yeah, that's right. But in the future, you may see other networks. Okay, other questions?
Okay, I have a question.
Yes.
The first question is that how do you balance the time and progress? You mean, as you have mentioned that you spend 4 years to polish a classical game. So in 4 years, you will spend quite a lot of time. And if you have success, okay, everything is great. If you have failed, so what will be happening? This is my first question. The second question is how do you think about the other company like GameLoft or EA? Or do you treat them as a competitor?
Sure. Okay, so 2 parts. The first question was, if we take 4 years to make a game, then what happens if it's a failure, right? You've wasted an enormous amount of time. So one of our mottos is fail fast. If you're going to fail in a game, fail as fast as you can. So we don't spend 4 years in a game and then discover it's going to be a failure. The reason we build those prototypes I showed you is hopefully we discover a game is not fun after 2 weeks. So by taking a game idea and building a prototype, you should very quickly discover is this fun or not. And if it's fun, then you can spend 3 years polishing it and adding artwork. And I mean, take PVZ. After just 6 months, everyone knew this was going to be an amazing game. And then we were willing to invest 3 years making it perfect. But if the game wasn't fun after 6 weeks, I can guarantee you we're not going to spend 3 years continuing to work on it. PopCap has thrown away many games you never saw. For every game we publish, we probably start and then cancel, 6 different games. So there's a lot of games that you will never see because we only ship games that we think will be successful. There's always this question, quality versus quantity, right? Our CEO has said, if we ship 1 game every 2 years that can be as successful as PVZ, that can start an entire new franchise, we're doing great, right? That's our target. 1 game every 2 years that's as good as a game like PVZ or Visual. And even that's hard to do. But we are not going to ship, let's say, 10 games a year and have them all be mediocre. Because the difference in sales between a great game and a bad game, especially when you include all the different platforms out there, is huge. I mean, PVZ made this much money on PC, this much money on iPhone, this much on Xbox, iPad, online, social. So you have to have a great game first, and then you can really do a success across different platforms.